Hello, thank you for joining us for this digital streaming event. I'm Tom Nanny.
And I'm Lacie Eads.
And we are pleased to represent the Friends of Chamber Music in this season's streaming series.
The Friends of Chamber Music has brought world-class musicians to Kansas City for the past 4.5 decades. And although the pandemic has changed the method, our dedication in continuing this tradition remains steadfast.
With the support of the Missouri Arts Council and Arts KC, the Friends are delighted to bring you another presentation from the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. In our past seasons, it would not be uncommon for these same artists to play on our Kansas City stages, as well as at Lincoln Center in consecutive performances. So these streaming performances align with the rich tradition of bringing the world's finest classical music to our very own neighborhood.
The Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center created the Front Row National Series through their Front Row National Program in response to the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to showcase beautiful music in trying times in a manner that was safe and accessible for patrons right in their very own homes. These performances are selected from the Chamber Music Society's vast archive of HD performances you won't find on YouTube or other streaming services. The next concert we present features all 6 of Bach's Brandenburg Concertos. These pieces represent some of Bach's most intriguing compositions, full of technical difficulty and unusual instrumental combinations. While working in Curtin in 1721, Bach gathered 6 different concertos he had previously written, assembled them together, and sent them along to the Margrave of Brandenburg, hoping for a job in his court in Berlin. As the story goes, sadly, the Margrave did not offer Bach a job. In fact, he never even gave the music a chance. What seems to us today like an obvious misstep on the part of the Margrave makes more sense if you consider that the bizarre combination of instruments simply wasn't feasible with the Margrave's musical personnel. Nevertheless, these pieces are a delight for audiences today, and we are pleased to share this presentation with you.
Brandenburg Concerto No. 1 features numerous soloists. Bach created solo roles for 1 violin, solo roles for 3 oboes, a solo role for 1 bassoon, and then another solo role for 2 horns, nearly as many musicians as might constitute a small orchestra. This first concerto is, besides its orchestration, is also unique because it's the only Brandenburg concerto that's in 4 movements.
The second concerto is scored for 4 soloists: violin, oboe, flute, and trumpet. We can see today, and probably how Baroque musicians and listeners felt in their era, just how difficult it would be to effectively balance the volume and timbre of a flute against a trumpet. I do love how the accompaniment allows each of these instruments to flourish.
The third concerto is the shortest of the 6, lasting only 10 to 11 minutes. The second movement is 1 measure with only 2 chords, and performers often improvise upon these chords with all sorts of varying cadences. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the performers do here.
The fourth concerto features a violin and 2 flutes. The first movement really grabs my attention. It lilts in the 3/8 time and features a short unifying motive or musical idea that keeps the listener anchored in the piece. The flutes operate in beautiful thirds for the majority of the first movement, creating a pleasing duet, while the violin alternates between joining the flutes, acting as a response to the flutes, or showing off in virtuosic flair in the middle of the movement. Fasten your seatbelts for the violin part.
That's right. The end of the fourth is quite a ride. Pretty amazing. The fifth concerto was written to show off a new harpsichord that Bach brought back with him from Berlin for the court at Curtin. The first movement features a harpsichord cadenza, which is just incredible. It's dazzling, deeply moving. It recaps, recombines, and transcends all of the beautiful themes from the first movement. In this performance, it's played on a harpsipiano, which was an instrument championed by the pianist Glenn Gould, which combines the tone of a harpsichord, sort of this light silvery tone, with the expressive powers of a piano.
This concerto is a real treat, and I love how the harpsichord gets to take center stage when it's usually just part of the continuo ensemble. So we really get to see the harpsichord show off here. The final concerto wastes no time taking off. The driving eighth note continuo part really sets the tone for this piece. Of note, Bach gives the violas center stage this time. And this is notable because usually violas provide harmonic support, but do not get the spotlight. I think it's interesting too how Bach lightens the texture of this piece by removing the continuo, which is played by the harpsichord and the double bass, and brings it back in throughout the piece. I really think the piece could become monotonous with the constant forces of all instruments, especially with no instruments in a higher register than the viola. So the entrance and exit of the continuo really brings pleasing variety to this piece.
Well, that concludes our brief overview of these 6 concertos, which are some of Bach's most famous and joyful works.
Please enjoy this presentation of the Brandenburg Concertos, available right here on the Friends of Chamber Music website, May 8th through May 14th.